What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit that little bell. That way you get notified first every time we release brand new videos. First and foremost, thank you for all the subscribers and for all the viewers. We just hit 60,000. Amazing. And we're on our way to 100,000. So I'm glad I can help you guys out as much as possible in this incredible, awesome, profitable financial revolution. So thanks for being a part of it. Really appreciate it. And here's to the next 60,000, as they say. Today, what we're talking about is Bitcoin, which is just kind of, the thing is just crazy. But what we're going to talk about is the idea of being a perma bull and what that means. And then versus being conservative. And I want to talk about potentially how to have a blended strategy, because I think that that'll help resolve a lot of not issues, but people are kind of on the fence about certain things. Hopefully that clarifies it. Talk a little bit about altcoins, but I really want to talk about some of the macro markets that are happening, some of the tides that are shifting, and how I think that we are going to see some really just wild things happen in the next few weeks going into 2018. And just, yeah, it's exciting. It's hard to describe the energy right now in crypto. It's really, really positive. It's really good. It's obviously bubbly / almost manic in certain senses, where people are throwing money at different things. But what we like to talk about, what I like to talk about on this channel, and what I like to implement is it's okay to be part of a bubble. It's actually the best place to make money is in bubbles ever. Like, that is the spot. The trick is being able to have a very, very solid and ironclad strategy while you're riding those bubbles. And, it's not for the faint of heart, but that's what we're going to talk about, because we are all here to crush this opportunity to our best. Now, Bitcoin, I'm looking at Coinbase right now. On the 1 hour, Bitcoin is hovered around 11,800, high 800s. It did not go above that, but I think on other exchanges, it did cross 12,000, some of the Korean exchanges. So you'll see a few headlines that may say Bitcoin hit 12,000. And I always look at GDAX, which is what Coinbase is built on, because that tends to have the most solid sell and buy activity in terms of when those prices go, everything goes. So GDAX and Gemini are really where I spend a lot of my time looking for pricing. So we're looking at the 1 hour. You're seeing just this kind of a little bit of this consolidation happening in the last 24 hours or so, but just a slow build up, right? This is just a gradual build. And when you look at the volume, it's just an accumulation phase. I mean, more people are just buying this and nobody's really selling it. Now, that's nothing new. I know a lot of people are like, yes, so what? And here's what I've been thinking about a lot is my whole thing is you dollar cost average and you buy the dips, which we mentioned yesterday. It is getting to the point where it may seem like it's just always going to keep going up. And obviously, at some point, there will be some sort of correction, whether it be a big one, a small one, whether it just be a stagnation and the correction actually deploys out to other crypto. Nobody's really sure how that's going to play out yet. But I would say this. I would consider myself very bullish on crypto. And I would consider myself very bullish on Bitcoin in particular. That doesn't mean that I'm blindly throwing money at it and that I'm not prepared for a dip. It just means that I am more likely to spend my time thinking about how I can capitalize the upswings than I am waiting around for the downswings. There's some famous quote, I think it was Peter Lynch, famous investor, talks about how over the last 100 years, 3 or 4 times as much money has been lost waiting for corrections than in the corrections themselves. And that's why dollar cost averaging is a really good strategy. So what I would encourage everyone to think about and potentially even do, this obviously isn't financial advice. I gotta say that as much as I can. But what I do is I look at something like Bitcoin, and I look at the demand curve and I think to myself, I know that this is going to that we are in a bull run, and I'm going to play this trend as long as I possibly can until I have a really good reason not to. How can I ensure that I get the upside, but I don't get the downside? And so what I can do is I can take a percentage of my trading currency, my fiat that I have available, right? You can't play with money you don't have. That's not a good idea. And you can buy in, and then you can set really tight stop losses along the way. Meaning, if you're just getting started and you bought in today or whatever it may be, or yesterday, let's say you bought at 11,700, you could go long with your Bitcoin, with a lot of Bitcoin if you want, or dollars, and set your stop loss at like 11,580, right? So if it dips at all, if it starts to go down, you just get stopped out and you lose 1.5% on that, and then you're out of the game. But if it doesn't hit that stop loss, maybe you get an ongoing trend. Like it'll just keep riding it up. But at the very least, like your risk reward in this kind of a bull market is actually really good. And as long as you're monitoring it and you're almost running a trailing stop loss on that, assuming that your orders fill on the stop losses, it's a good situation to be in. You can take those little 0.5% losses as long as it means that you're creating your own artificial floor. Now, if you don't know what this means, if this isn't something that you are prepared to do or are interested in doing, don't worry about it. You can just hold and play the long game, which is really what I'm doing with most of my money. But I think that it's really important to remember that you don't have to being a bull in a bubble and parabolic doesn't mean that you're careless or an idiot or anything like that. It just means that you see the trend and you think that trend is going to keep going and you have your reasons. It doesn't have to be black or white, right? It doesn't have to be I'm either in it fully or I'm on the sidelines. You can have a very clear strategy to drive these runs up, to capture some of the upside. And as soon as it starts to go down, you exit immediately. Maybe it goes back up and you can re-enter or whatever it may be. But I mean, I'll say it again. There's no better time to make money than in a bubble. You just got to be 10 times smarter than when everything is hunky-dory. And there's a lot of pressure that's involved. There's a lot more risk, but you can be smart about it. So that's what I'm doing with Bitcoin. That's what I'm interested about Bitcoin. I'm just going to keep watching this thing, keep watching the demand curve, keep talking to my friends in the fund and in hedge fund world and see what they're looking at. Altcoin markets, man, it just continues to blow my mind, right? I think that we're just going to keep seeing this. I think as we see Bitcoin go sideways or maybe even have a little bit of pullback, you will see another big surge. But I think the one thing that I'm realizing with altcoins, or at least what has worked for me and what has not worked for me, I should say, is that it's a lot more effective for my personality type and my strategy to pick a couple of these, do all my research, build a really big position over the course of a few weeks, and then once it gets its big pop, it makes up for all of the rest. In other words, if you wake up and you're like, oh, I'm going to pick, I want to capitalize on Monero's latest bump or Lisk or Rise or any of these coins that on the daily, and you're trying to catch them as fast as you can and doing that over and over, for some people that may work. But what I find is that in markets like this, everything that's quality and that has a future will get its shot. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not be this week, but it will happen. And if you can accumulate a lot of those coins before the pop, you end up making and keeping a lot more money. And at least that's what I've learned when I do my audit on my 2017 experience. So, you got to stay smart. I never chase the candles. That's my one of my philosophies. Find coins that have a future, really good future, and build large positions, knowing that at some point, if it's good, it will get the pump you're waiting for. All right, patience. A couple other pieces of news that I think will be helpful for you guys. The futures market is having, I would say, the intended consequence, right? Aside from what's going to do with the price and volatility in Bitcoin, which is to be seen really next week when the CBOE comes in with their first product, and the following week with the CME in the next spring or summer with NASDAQs. Tokyo is announcing it. So you're going to see a lot more of these futures markets starting to pop up. This is having an intended effect where it's going to do whatever it does to the price, but it is legitimizing Bitcoin to a lot of places, right? JP Morgan just came out and they're saying, actually, there's something to this Bitcoin thing. And, I'm not going to sit here and talk about who was right or wrong. It doesn't help anybody. So, but it does show you that institutions are starting to come around. And that's what these futures markets are going to do. And once they go live, we're going to really see what the deal is. But it's amazing how just by having some sort of hedge, by having more regulation, by having more institutional support, we can bring in bigger money. Having the SEC come in and shut down scammy ICOs, Plexcoin or whatever it was, that's a good thing. We want that to happen. Okay, it doesn't mean that they're coming after it. However you feel about the government regulations is one thing, but realize that the more regulation, the more money that's going to come in, and the higher the price is probably going to go. So I'm excited to see these new futures markets pop up. I'm really excited to see how it affects the prices next week. But what you guys should know is that there is, what Novogratz says, the herd is coming. This is what the herd needs. This is what they need: custodial areas, right? Places where they can actually store 50 million in crypto, and people who can secure it, brokerage houses. And then they need the instruments to be able to make hedged trades. That's what futures, options, derivatives, that's what this all does, ETFs. Okay, so very exciting times. Keep your eye out for this. The more you see this, the more momentum we're going to have. As you guys know, demand drives this price right now. So the more we see this, better it's going to do for the overall prices. I thought this was really interesting. We've got some celebrity. This is kind of a funny way to get a lot of marketing around a coin. So Monero is being accepted at a couple of merchandise stores online that you can buy merchandise from Mariah Carey, Marilyn Manson, G-Eazy, all the top hits, all the good stuff. But what's really interesting is that one, it shows a B2C adoption, which is a big part of crypto, meaning crypto to consumer, business to consumer, versus something like Stellar Lumens, which is business to business, right? Bank transactions. Both of those are use cases that will increase transaction volume. But what's really interesting, in my opinion, as a marketer, is that this probably won't drive a whole lot of revenue. I mean, I don't know what these guys are doing. I know a good amount about the merch business. I'm invested in a merch company. And so the crypto actually won't impact the bottom line that well. What this does, though, is that this is the kind of thing that can get a lot of publicity, right? This is the kind of thing that gives a lot of legitimacy. These articles get shared a lot. People start to say, "Oh, it is working," right? So you're going to start to see cryptos being used as payment gateways and then lopped into actual e-commerce stores, right? Places to buy it. The impact is not as much on how much volume, it's on how many shares do these articles get. And this article is going to get shared a lot. So what this means for you, if you own a coin and if you own a good amount of coin and you want to see something happen, offer that coin on your website or go find a website that accepts payments for whatever and help them implement that coin onto that website. If you go back and listen to the interview I did with Vinny Lingham, the founder of Civic, that's the number one thing he said people can do to help the price of Civic is integrate Civic's technology or have the company reach out to Civic get more people to use it, because you're going to get articles like this written about it. You're going to get a lot of publicity about it. The coin's price is going to do well. This is a really good thing that anybody could do to take control over the future of a coin you own, the coin that you believe in. So very exciting stuff. I like seeing things like this. I'm really excited to see how well it does, but it's just the more legitimization we see, the better. Two more things. The first is Wall Street Journal put out an article, and I'll link to this, but you have to be a subscriber to read it. So there used to be a hack where you could Google a title and you could actually read the whole article. It doesn't really work anymore. But this article was really interesting because it kind of, I wouldn't say concedes that Bitcoin, conceding isn't the right word. It was more about offering a new perspective that, hey, Bitcoin might be more legit than we think, and we need to do something before this gets out of control. It was almost like a call to arms for the banks, and saying things are going to get, this actually may be a threat. And like, there's someone took a screenshot of this where this is out of the actual article, and it says, there's another danger, perhaps even more serious from the point of view of the central banks and regulators, is that Bitcoin might not crash. If the speculative fervor in the cryptocurrency is merely the precursor to it being widely used as an alternative to the dollar, it will threaten the central bank's monopoly on money. Okay, that means that, like we talked about yesterday, this curve that everyone is like, oh, this is parabolic, myself included. It's like, oh man, this is not sustainable. We're in a bubble. Ugh. What if this is an adoption curve and not a price curve? And that's what this article is really talking about, is it's saying that central banks, governments, and regular banks, everybody, you gotta start thinking about, like, what happens if this doesn't go away? What do you do then? And it may seem like, oh no, you regulate Bitcoin, that's not a good thing, but like, this is what needs to happen to make this fully legit. It's going to bring in so much money that, the numbers are just astronomical. So the fact that the Wall Street Journal is writing this, and that there are thousands, if not millions, of people reading this every day, and maybe like 100,000 people in finance read this yesterday, or this morning, I should say. It's interesting. That's a big deal, in my opinion. So it might not crash, right? I personally am 50-50 on it crashing. I don't know if it's going to crash. I think it may dip, have a lot of volatility, may get traded out by the futures market, and then just slowly settle at some price and just start to hover there. I think that is just as likely as a big crash and then going up to 100,000. So what that number will be, nobody knows. In the meantime, just keep riding it. Last thing I want to talk about is a tweet I did yesterday that is more about the behavioral side, that I find this to be really helpful whenever I am sitting at my computer or on my phone, looking at crypto, looking at the markets, looking at my portfolio, and feeling FOMO, not sure what to do next, feeling that desire to buy something, whatever. And the tweet says this: the desire for uncertainty drives people to buy. The desire for certainty drives people to sell. Meet those core human needs in places outside of crypto, and you'll become an infinitely better investor. What I mean by this, we talked about this. There's a video a couple weeks ago I did about behavioral finance. You should check that out if you're interested in this kind of thing, like the emotional and the emotions that lead to behaviors that lead to buying activity. When you boil it down and you ask any psychologist about this, people are going to buy crypto because they want more variety in their life. Variety being a very loose term, meaning they want excitement, they want adventure, they want a thrill, they want a change. And without crypto, they may feel like there is no other place to get that. Similarly, people on a core behavioral level will sell crypto because it provides them certainty. It locks in a price. It removes them from the volatility. They establish a very black and white perimeter, right? That it is certain and clear what just happened. The future is no longer a question mark. And that's why people sell during times of fear, because the uncertainty or the need for certainty is so great that by selling, your body relinquishes that certainty. It gets that control back. And I think what you'll find, and this comes from talking to and studying a lot of investors and really a lot of traders, is that if you can find this in other parts of your life, you will see that you have a much lower emotional attachment to the buying and selling parts of cryptocurrency. Because crypto amplifies everything emotionally, big time, with these type of gains and the possibilities and everything else. And so what does this mean? How do you do it? You need to have things in your life. I'm not trying to be preachy here. This is just almost like a summary of what I've learned. To get more certainty in life, you need things that you can count on, that are guaranteed, that no matter what happens, you've always got that. A lot of people have family for that, or friends for that, maybe a dog, some sort of, higher being, God, whatever you want to call it, but, or, a block of gold or some cash, something that no matter what, at the end of the day, you go home and that's a certainty. It's guaranteed. And that is you need to have that foundation of security and control. Similarly, when you have too much of that, life gets boring when there is no variety. And that is what gets people often into crypto, is that if you're going through the same routine and doing the same old things and nothing's really exciting, crypto can give you that dopamine, can give you that thrill. And you should look to find things that get you excited in the future, right? Anticipation is the driver of dopamine for the most part. So you got to have something in the future that gets you excited. For me, it's planning trips or going to or hosting parties that are in the future, or starting a new project or starting a new book, or anything really, but something that you can get excited about, that like genuinely excited about, like really fired up about. You will start to look at crypto less as the thing that is your excitement driver, and it'll just be a thing that is just as exciting as if you had a trip. Now, I'm realistic. I know that not everybody has. Everyone's in a different situation, but you can get these things on a very, very basic level, right? It just may take a little bit more practice. But that's what I mean by all of this. And by no means am I expecting anybody to, change your life or whatever, but you will make better decisions if you have a more balanced and healthy life outside of it. And everyone's like, oh, you drink so much Red Bull. I don't drink that much Red Bull. But, it's like, this is the stuff that I work on, right? I work on my health. I work on my relationships. I work on going on trips and stuff, because if I don't, I'm going to sit in this chair and stare at charts for 15 hours a day, and I'm going to lose all my money. It's the truth. And that's not what I want. And so I think that this is just helpful. If you find yourself get going crazy over the buying and selling, if it just like works you a lot, focus on what are the things that are guaranteed in my life that I can always count on. What are some things in my life that I'm really excited about that have nothing to do with crypto? And if the answer is nothing, you got to go find something. It is imperative that you do it. You will make more money. I can almost guarantee it. With that, I'm going to sign off. It's always great, guys. Thanks again for the 60,000. Can't wait to get to 70. And I'll talk to you soon. Peace out.